Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane, and it's the morning of Monday, 3rd of June 2019. And it seems that I'm still banned from putting these live streams up on Facebook. As soon as I try and hook up, it says there is a problem with your internet connection. Well, there's no problem whatsoever. It's simply a question of Facebook denying me the access. I wonder why that would be. Anyway, the title of this morning's broadcast is The Great EU Deception, with Boris and Nigel as Deceivers-in-Chief. So as we see, obviously the two major parties, or once major parties in the UK, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, are in total meltdown. Thanks to their atrocious handling of Brexit. So it's pretty much 3 years now since the referendum, and all that government and MPs have been able to do in that period is to obfuscate. But the British people are not taking it lying down. Now, they haven't yet taken to the streets in the vein of the yellow vests in France, but that's still to come. The opportunity is being given to the politicians to do the right thing and carry out the will of the people. And just to remind everyone what that ballot paper actually said 3 years ago. It was a very, very simple question, and that was, should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? And then you had the opportunity to tick one of two boxes, and one box said the choice would be to remain a member of the European Union, and the other box was leave the European Union. Now, it didn't say leave the European Union, but, still have some relationship with them in terms of fishing and customs union and military unification. It said leave the European Union. Now, this coming week, we have a by-election in Peterborough. And after the BREXIT Party literally cleaned up in the recent EU elections, yes, I know the Remainers are still whinging that basically when you add all the votes together for all the Remain parties, there was a little bit more than Brexit. But the reality is that a lot of people voted Labour, but they really wanted out, and more of that a little later. But the bottom line is that the people have consistently expressed their desire to get out of the EU. And it's only the metros in London and parts of the southeast, as I'm reminded Essex was very much wanting to get out. It's very much London and, I would say the home counties, because that for me is more than just the southeast. The southeast for me is Kent, Surrey and Hampshire. And, there was no question pockets in those areas that wanted to stay in the EU because they're riding the gravy train. But for the rest of the country, particularly up here in the north of England, which has been totally shafted as being part of the EU, then obviously they want out big time. So the big issue here is military unification. And, full credit to the UK column, and in particular David Ellis, for consistently flagging this up. But this is now a massive issue. And, let's just put a few things in perspective. Because Theresa May, and when Boris was her foreign secretary, they both signed up to EU defence institutions. Basically meaning that the UK would continue to make outrageous payments to the EU for the privilege of being subjugated to the EU in terms of all military activity. And of course, this has a very significant implication in terms of the UK's relationship with NATO, which I don't have a lot of time for either, but that's another story. The reality here is that either the UK retains its independence and is completely standalone outside of the EU and negotiates the appropriate trading arrangements, or it's subjugated to the EU, and in particular being part of the EU military unification. So just 5 days after the Brexit vote, a secret paper was published in Brussels which included the implementation plan for security and defence, which was basically laying the groundwork for the EU ambitions on creating defence and security unification, and ultimately and unequivocally leading to an EU army. Now, at the time that document wasn't published but was discussed, Michael Fallon was the Defence Secretary, and Michael Fallon stated publicly that Britain would oppose any idea of a UK army. But on the 12th of September in 2017, a paper was published which assumed Britain's commitment to selling out the UK to Brussels. It basically said that this was a done deal and would happen. And, Alistair Brockbank, who was a civil servant and defence advisor to the EU, he stated in a speech that he gave at the London School of Economics to EU diplomats, and he said the UK government was always planning to have, and I quote, no gap in the UK's subordination to EU foreign and security policy. So here you've got a senior civil servant and advisor to the government stating that, there's no question here, the UK is going to sign up to EU military unification. And by the way, the only reason that we know of this presentation is because it was secretly recorded and then published in The Sun. So, an EU civil servant states that Britain is going to give up its independence, particularly military independence. Well, this led to Colonel Richard Kemp, who was the commander of the UK forces in Afghanistan, and he said the PM has used UK armed forces as a throwaway bargaining chip in her negotiations with Brussels. And Boris, now contender for the leadership of the Tory party, and by default Prime Minister, he has basically agreed, whilst he was Foreign Minister, that the UK would sign up to EU military union. And Nigel Farage, who is the other pretender here, also knows very, very well about the plans for EU unification, but refuses to be drawn on it. So let's have a look at the situation that the UK is in right now, because it's not pretty. And we could, sit back and see how it unfolds. But if you do that, then it's going to be even less pretty. So the contenders for the Tory leadership, primarily Boris and Michael Gove. Now, Michael Gove is a self-professed Zionist. So there's little doubt that if Michael Gove becomes Prime Minister of this country, the UK will simply become a vassal state of a certain Middle Eastern country that, if you happen to mention on YouTube or Facebook, tends to lead to getting banned. Such is the nature of freedom of expression in the early part of the 21st century. So, vassal state of vassal Zionist state, or somebody who is basically a loose cannon, can be entertaining, but basically has also previously stated that he's not going to stand in the way of military unification. And then you have Farage, who certainly riding on the crest of a very, very big wave right now as leader of the BREXIT Party, a party that is barely 7 weeks old, stormed the EU elections and is very likely to perform very well in Peterborough this coming Thursday. And yet Farage, as I'm reminded, not only supports EU military unification, but also supports the abolition of the NHS, and also supports fracking. So the only way in which these politicians ever change their tune is when they realise that they are about to lose the popular vote, lose their seat, and therefore lose their income. So there has never been a more crucial time for people to engage in the process. And, you know, all of those people who say, yeah, but, you know, if we don't engage in the process, we don't give it legitimacy. Oh, you know, this is really so naive. You know, if you can live outside the system, you know, good luck to you. But the reality is that you abdicate, you effectively gift them what they want, because they know very, very well that anybody who elects to abdicate, to opt out of the political arena, is unlikely to vote for any of the establishment parties, and so consequently they're very happy that you don't participate. So what's going on in Peterborough this weekend, well, or this Thursday rather, is there are 15 candidates. Now this is once again another classic tactic to stuff the ballot paper, to split the opposition vote. Now, you know, back in the last elections, Labour scraped home with 22,950 votes. But the reason the elections come about is because the incumbent was caught not telling the truth. How different is that from every other one of the MPs? But anyway, apparently she told a bit more of a porky, and therefore gets bounced out of her seat. Of course, every single politician in the country should be subjected to the same level of scrutiny. Anyway, she won literally with just 607 votes as a majority in the last election. So Labour got 22,950 and the Tories got 22,347. The Lib Dems and the Greens were nowhere. The Greens losing their deposit and the Lib Dems just getting 1,597 votes. This time round, 15 candidates, and of course including the candidate for the BREXIT Party, Mike Green. And the likelihood is that because Peterborough was voted 60.9% in fact, to leave the EU in the referendum, there's a very, very strong probability that Mike Green, standing for the BREXIT Party, will win the election in Peterborough this Thursday. But what is his and what is the BREXIT Party stance on EU military unification? You know, watch how they try to avoid the question. Watch how they try and obfuscate. And Farage, when he's asked the question, will literally run the proverbial mile. And of course, Brexit is very much on the agenda of the Bilderberger meeting, where, you know, politicians and industrialists are pulled together from the compliant world and effectively given their instructions, and it's made very clear to them that if they want to continue to enjoy the lifestyle to which they become accustomed, they will make the decisions that serve the global corporatists. So, you know, the UK is in a very, very interesting and, dare I say, unique position right now. Because thanks to the law of unintended consequences, David Cameron provided the doorway to get out of the EU. Westminster is doing everything in its power to prevent that from occurring. And Boris and Farage, who are presenting themselves as the champions for taking the UK out of the EU, are in it up to here. Their snouts are so far in the trough that they are literally going to continue the pantomime to keep kicking the can down the road until everyone gets so bored they say, oh dear, what a shame, well we tried, let's just stay in. Not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because an increasing number of people around the UK are coming to the realization of the magnitude of the deceit and the subjugation being applied by the totalitarian regime that we know as the EU. The EU elections are somewhat farcical. The European Parliament has zero legislative capabilities. It is purely a consultative body. It's a talking shop. the power rests with the Council of Ministers and the lobbyists. It's the lobbyists who effectively dictate what becomes EU policy. The Council of Ministers simply rubber stamps, and then the rest just rolls downhill. So time to really get after it. And if you are in Peterborough, this is a crucial by-election. So, you know, there can only really be one desired result, and that's that the BREXIT Party do storm it. But Farage must be held to account. Nigel Farage must not believe that he's got free rein to pontificate with a pint of beer in his hand and, you know, hail fellow, well met and all that. Yeah, Nigel, you've already blown it one time. You've got a second chance here. But we are watching you like the proverbial hawks. And unless you come clean on your stance on EU military unification, and Boris does the same, then you will be hounded until such time as you make a statement on this. Because from where I stand right now, you and Boris are very much part of the problem. The solution is very much with the people of this country. And I'm just going to close today with a reference to this article that appeared in the Sunday Times yesterday, which was effectively reiterating what I'd said last week. The strange death of Labour Britain. And this, of course, is an article analysing, you know, what's happened with Jeremy Corbyn, a man who for his entire parliamentary career has campaigned against the EU, and now that he has the opportunity to take a leadership role in taking Britain out of the EU, has totally screwed it up. And you know, I have to say that all those people who were warning me about Corbyn a few years ago, you were absolutely right. The guy is not to be trusted. The guy is clearly a political chancer. So having been in Parliament for 35 years, the guy has the inability to keep his finger on the pulse of the party and simply capitulates to the rabid Blairites who effectively have destroyed traditional Labour and turned it into nothing more than Tory light. So, Labour Party, adios, you are history. Tory Party, adios, you are also history. God forbid that Nigel Farage is the only option that the UK has to put forward. Hopefully, sometime in the ensuing months or years before another general election, one, we will be out of the EU proper, and a genuine statesman will emerge who can take an independent EU well and truly into the heart of the 21st century and protect the economy and the culture and the military independence of this country. So meanwhile, you have a great day, and if you do want to get a deep insight into the EU military unification agenda, then take a look at David Ellis's AV10 presentation, which is available on the Alternative View website. Yeah, it costs you £2.50 to watch at the moment, but let me tell you that will be £2.50, the price of a coffee. Very, very well spent. And finally, just a word of acknowledgement. As I stand here on this Monday morning, the 3rd of June, 49 weeks before AV11, AV11 is now completely sold out of all residential tickets. So unless I can negotiate a larger venue, then it looks like AV11 is now completely sold out. The only availability will be the day tickets as and when I put them on the market. So thank you so much for the endorsement that AV is playing an important role in the ongoing discussions that we have about the way in which the British government and global corporatists are destroying the culture and the economy of this country, and the people need to take things into their own hands and fight back. So thanks for joining me this morning. I will be back with you on Wednesday morning at 8:30 when I'm sure I'll have a little bit more of a forecast on what's going to happen in Peterborough the following day. But, just stay alert, stay vigilant, because there are very much forces at work that want to see the UK destroyed and in total subjugation to the bureaucrats of Brussels.